11:47 p.m., December 3rd, 2021. A woman stumbled into the back seat of an Uber on the east side of Indianapolis. Her hands shook as she whispered only 2 words. "Drive, please." In the mirror, the driver saw headlights closing in. The same car had followed them for 5 straight blocks. This is the empathy room, where every story reminds us of the power of courage and kindness. Subscribe and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. His name was Marcus Hill, a father of 2 who drove nights to keep food on the table. He didn't know it yet, but that shift would test everything he believed about protecting a stranger. Marcus Hill had worked the night shift for almost 3 years. At 41, he was used to the rhythm of empty streets, the glow of traffic lights switching for no one, and the late-night passengers who came and went with barely a word. On December 3rd, 2021, his phone buzzed with another request. It was 11:40 p.m. The pickup was less than half a mile away, and Marcus accepted it like he always did. He pulled his black Honda Accord onto Washington Street, glancing at the radio as a segment on rideshare safety filled the silence. A reporter's voice mentioned new safety features, an emergency button inside the app, panic signals for drivers and riders. Marcus half listened, nodding, thinking of his wife who always worried until he got home. He adjusted the rearview mirror, checked the street for traffic, and turned down the block. Felt like any other ride. Another stranger, another late-night run, another chance to earn what he needed to cover rent that week. He had no reason to think this trip would be different. No reason at all, until he saw the figure waiting on the curb, looking over her shoulder again and again as though someone was right behind her. She wasn't standing the way most riders did. No scrolling on her phone, no casual wave. Instead, the young woman hugged her arms tight across her chest, her head snapping left and right as if every shadow carried a threat. The street lamp above flickered, throwing her face into sharp relief. Eyes wide, lips pressed together, the look of someone trying to stay invisible. Marcus slowed the car and rolled down the passenger window just enough. "Are you Anna?" he asked, checking the name on his app. She nodded quickly, barely glancing at him before pulling the back door open and sliding in. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Please, just drive." That was all she said, no greeting, no explanation. Marcus frowned, glancing back in the mirror. She wasn't wearing a coat despite the December cold. Her hands trembled as they clutched her small purse, and she never stopped looking out the rear window. As Marcus eased back onto Washington Street, headlights appeared behind them. A black SUV, keeping the same distance, making the same turns. He glanced once more at the mirror, then at her reflection. Her jaw tightened, her breathing shallow. Whoever was in that car, she already knew them, and that knowledge terrified her. The first mile passed in near silence, only the hum of tires on pavement filling the space. Marcus kept his eyes on the road but checked the rearview every few seconds. The SUV was still there, keeping just enough distance to avoid suspicion, but never far enough to feel like coincidence. Inside the car, the tension was heavy. The woman, Anna, sat rigid, her gaze fixed on the back window, every muscle in her face tight. Marcus cleared his throat gently. "You okay back there?" he asked, his voice calm, steady, like a father speaking to a scared child. She blinked, swallowed hard, and shook her head. "He's following me," she whispered, barely audible. Marcus felt his chest tighten. He didn't ask who. He didn't ask why. The fear in her voice was enough. At the next light, he turned right instead of going straight. The SUV turned too. Marcus tapped the steering wheel, his mind racing. He thought of his daughters at home, one not much younger than Anna, and he knew this was no ordinary ride. He checked his phone mounted on the dash. No emergency alert, no flashing warning. Just a stranger in his back seat, and a threat closing in behind them. For the first time that night, Marcus realized he would have to make a choice that went far beyond the job. Marcus's hands tightened around the steering wheel as he pulled through another intersection. The SUV stayed behind, unshaken, its headlights burning into his mirrors. He could feel Anna's breathing quicken in the back seat, shallow gasps she was trying to control. Every turn he made, every lane he shifted into, the vehicle shadowed them. Finally, Marcus spoke again, his voice low but firm. "Listen to me," he said, glancing at her reflection in the mirror. "You're safe in here. I won't let anything happen to you." Her eyes darted up, wide and desperate, as if clinging to that promise. He knew he had to think fast. Dropping her at the original destination wasn't an option anymore. If the man behind them was who she feared, then taking her straight there would hand her over. Marcus considered pulling into a gas station, a well-lit public space. Then again, if the pursuer was bold enough, it could make things worse. He thought about calling 911, but his hands hesitated. What if it escalated before officers arrived? His instincts screamed louder than the navigation on his phone. He pressed the screen, canceled the trip mid-ride, and veered off toward an alternate route he knew well, one that wound past the edge of downtown and closer to the police precinct. Anna clutched her purse tighter, whispering, "He won't stop." Marcus glanced at her in the mirror once more and gave a steady nod. "Then neither will I." The choice was made. He wasn't just her driver anymore. He was her shield. The glow of the dashboard clock read 12:08 a.m. as Marcus tightened his grip, steering onto a dim stretch of road with fewer cars. The SUV behind them closed the distance, its engine humming louder, matching every swerve and signal. Anna's trembling voice finally broke the silence. "That's him. That's the man I told you about." Her hands shook as she pointed toward the rear window. Marcus's chest tightened, but his focus sharpened. He slowed slightly, testing the driver's reaction. The SUV slowed too. He accelerated. It followed. There was no denying it now. A shadow of fear flickered in Anna's eyes as she leaned forward, whispering, "He won't stop until he gets me." Marcus's heartbeat thudded against his ribs, but he didn't let his voice waver. "Then we'll make sure he never does." He reached for his phone, pressing the emergency button built into the Uber app, his voice steady as he spoke quickly to the operator. Every word mattered. He gave their location, their direction, their plates. Anna's breath caught as the SUV suddenly swerved closer, almost clipping the back of Marcus's bumper. The car jerked, but Marcus steadied it with a hard pull of the wheel. He raised his voice, firm now, protective and commanding. "Anna, listen to me. Whatever happens, keep your head down and don't open that door." She nodded, clutching the strap of her purse so tightly her knuckles turned white. The night air outside felt heavy, the tension mounting with every second. The pursuer had made his intentions clear, and Marcus knew the moment of confrontation was closing in fast. It wasn't just a chase anymore. It was a test of who would give in first. The clock on the dash ticked past 12:25 a.m. when Marcus made his choice. He spotted the faint glow of a police substation sign 2 blocks ahead, but the SUV was pressing harder now, swerving left and right as if trying to force him off the road. Anna's soft whimper came from the back seat, her body pressed against the door, her eyes wide with terror. Marcus's jaw set firm. "Hold on," he called out, his voice rising above the hum of the engine. With a sharp twist, he accelerated, tires screeching as he cut across 2 lanes, the seatbelt tugging Anna back with a jolt. The SUV followed, roaring louder, but Marcus didn't let up. He leaned on the horn, blasting through the quiet night, flashing his high beams at a red light ahead where 2 other cars were waiting. The move was deliberate. He wanted attention, witnesses, noise. The SUV pulled dangerously close, inches from ramming them. Marcus slammed the brakes, causing the pursuer to overshoot for a moment. Using that split second, he swerved hard right, darting into the entryway of the police station lot. Anna gasped, covering her mouth with her hands, as Marcus shouted out his window toward the officers milling near the door, his voice booming, urgent. "She's in danger. He's after her." The words tore through the night like an alarm bell. Patrol lights flared to life instantly, red and blue bouncing across the pavement. Anna's body shook as relief and fear collided inside her, tears streaming down her face as she clutched the seat in front of her. Marcus leaned back just enough to catch her eyes in the rearview mirror. "You're safe now," he said, his voice softer but still steady, almost fatherly. Outside, sirens wailed as squad cars boxed in the SUV that had trailed them for miles. Marcus exhaled slowly, his knuckles finally loosening from the wheel. In that moment, he wasn't just a driver anymore. He was the reason Anna had a chance to breathe again. The flashing red and blue lights bathed the parking lot in harsh color as officers rushed toward the SUV, pulling the driver out in seconds. Anna sat frozen in the back seat, her chest rising and falling in quick bursts, the sound of her sobs filling the quiet inside the car. Marcus twisted in his seat and gently told her, "It's over. You're safe." She nodded faintly, her trembling hands wiping tears from her cheeks. The officers quickly confirmed what Marcus had feared all along. The man following them wasn't a friend, wasn't anyone she knew. He had a record, a long one. Tonight could have ended far worse if Marcus hadn't trusted his instincts. Standing outside the car, Marcus gave his statement, his voice steady though his heart was still pounding. Anna stepped out slowly, clutching her bag tightly against her chest. When she finally looked at Marcus, her eyes carried both fear and gratitude. "You saved me," she whispered. He shook his head softly, replying, "I just did what anyone should have done." But Anna knew better. Not everyone would have risked everything to stop. Not everyone would have made noise, drawn attention, put themselves directly in harm's way. That was a choice. The officers escorted Anna inside the station to give her statement. And as Marcus watched her walk away under the safety of police lights, he let out a long breath. The quiet night air wrapped around him differently now. This wasn't just another ride, another face, another fare. It was a reminder. Sometimes the smallest decision can become the most important one of your life. For Marcus, it wasn't about being a hero. It was about being human enough to care, to act when someone else needed it most. And for Anna, it meant the difference between becoming a headline and getting home alive.